Welcome back, Crosswind, and I'm going to apologize in advance for the quality of the audio and the ums and the ahs. Still in the infancy of editing and just putting videos on YouTube at all. So this is the test. This is the learning curve. Going forward, I'm going to mostly, especially with sanding and stuff like that, I'm going to just overlay a commentary onto the video. You guys all know what a grinder sounds like, and I got a message from one of you about I had my sound quality was garbage, and so I had it really quiet. And then the next segment, I had it as a grinding section, and like he said, he blew out his speakers almost. So apologize for that, and going forward, I'm gonna make everything as quiet as possible. This is the front mast support section on the starboard side. Chop strand matting, polyester resin, and same person commented on. Was asking me a couple questions about what I use. So I'm using polyester resin on everything. Chop strand matting for the most part, some roving and some mat, some woven mat. The reason I'm using polyester is because it's cheaper, especially with inflation. A gallon of resin is now about 185 Canadian. American is probably 140, and it's probably cheaper there, so it's probably 120 something dollars American. I also use it because it's not as specific as epoxy. You can put as much or as little hardener to a point in the resin. It'll just kick off faster or slower. When it's 30 degrees, you don't really need a lot, so 1 or 2%, and you can literally just squeeze it in a little bit at a time, and it works pretty well. So for me, it works well. I've really only used polyester anyway. The entire boat is made of polyester resin, so it'd be similar to wearing like a bulletproof eye patch sort of thing. I mean, it's great for that one spot, but then the rest of the entire boat is made of polyester. So my perspective is not. It doesn't really make sense to use epoxy. Epoxy is really good. It's got all those. The quality is better than polyester generally, and it has a strength component and it's water resistant. So there's that. I'm now putting resin all over the bunk sides. I shaved it down. It doesn't look pretty, but I'm more concerned about getting it in the water, and so I want to seal up the wood as best as I can. So I'm putting resin on all the sides. I'm only glassing the parts at the top where it connects from board to board, and on the bottom tabbing to the hull. This part here, I'm putting filler, cabasil, and some milled fibers in a Ziploc bag. Cut a little, cut the tip off it, and I'm squeezing it in between the bunk support, this sort of V tapered piece of plywood, and the bottom of the cockpit. Previously, this wasn't attached. The bunk support was a lot lower, and it was just supported by pieces of plywood, about three of them, on top of the bunk support, and then going back. I was just using a fillet there, and just to squeeze everything in. This part here, I'm up front doing. I just using the rest of the the resin because I guess I used it all, and I also did the same thing on the starboard side. A little bit of gel coat. This is the last of the gel coat of the can. Also about the same price as resin, about $180 Canadian. That depends on where you get it. Depends what kind you're using. But gel coat generally is about the same price as resin. Yeah, favorite sound? Muted, of course. This is the next day. In fact, it's 2 days after the resin, and so I'm just taking. I don't need to do this, but because the resin that I'm using is laminating resin, what I'm doing, the reason I'm sanding it is I'm taking all the sort of the high spots um, of the resin when you brush it. Sometimes if you don't get all of it, it leaves a high spot or even a sort of a little spike. So I'm grinding everything off, and I'm grinding off on the. You can see the darker sides on the bottom of the cabin because I'm going to use that part to tab the bunk sides to the hull. The middle of this cabin section has gotten a lot of wear. It is gel coated in the middle, as you can see. It's a large white patch in the middle between the keel bolts, the keel supports, and that third keel support is actually going to be right in the middle there. So this is the reason I'm doing this now. So again, it's the 2 days later. Uh, Sanding down the chop string matting on the front on the port side this time. I did it also on the starboard side. I didn't really need to do this. I didn't need to put glass on this. The same thing with the top part of the support, which you've seen me do before. I didn't need to, but I like it. I like the fact that it's got some extra support, extra strength, a little bit of longevity, and that's what I'm looking for. Okay, so that this is the back to the middle of the cabin. I've got the chop strand matting down, resin before. I could soak the chop strand matting before. I don't really have a great space because it's all in the boat. I don't have a whole separate spot for it. Laying this all down, just brushing it in. Polyester resin is great for chop strand matting. It's fine if you use epoxy with chop strand matting, but there's a binder and in the chop strand matting which works a lot better with polyester resin because it breaks it down and allows you to do curves nice and easy. Epoxy doesn't have that. It's got the styrene is what is in polyester that breaks down the binder. Um, so it's great with chop strand matting for polyester. It still works with epoxy. It's just not as good when it comes to doing a radius. So here I'm brushing in the last sort of section just to fill in the middles. Chop strand matting is also great for this. You can just fill in little tiny spots without having to cut a specific piece. This is the woven mat that I'm putting down on the top. Now the reason I'm doing this is because this mat has a much nicer finish to it than the chop strand matting. The chop strand matting kind of has little bumps. It's not even. This is also a lot nicer uh, to wet out. And now I'm using a roller to make sure that I have all the bubbles, as many bubbles as possible out of it. Again, this is not a strength sort of component. I didn't really need to do this, but I'm going to be putting a keel bracket in the middle, and that's why I want to do this before I put it because I'm going to gel coat this. I believe the next day or 2 days later. So I do this all after work at night, which is the reason I have a big flood lamp to begin with. Yeah, okay, so that's 2 days later, and this is uh, the cured resin and fiberglass, and so I'm putting gel coat over the top. So you need gel coat over the top to fully cure the polyester laminating resin. You can use a waxed resin, which doesn't require gel coat. Gel coat also gives it the UV protection. If you're using epoxy, You don't need to do this, but you do need to put the paper. I can't remember the name of it, but you put a sort of a paper on top of it, and you need to sand it between every single application. So here's the resin. Again, guys, thanks for watching.